Okay, redneck energy generation. So what do I mean by that? You could be a junk yard MacGyver, and the reason why things you might want to help some unprepared neighbors. Maybe they never bought a generator. Maybe you are a prepper, but you don't have enough money or time for more energy kind of appliances. Maybe you are prepared, but you want a backup plan, which is the main reason I wanted to have this, so I could have, and for neighbors, I wanted to also be able to help neighbors. Maybe then EMP took out your nice solar array, or maybe you just want more power, like, you know, Tim, the tool man. So, energy in this context, we're talking about more than just electricity. We're talking about keeping cool and warm, which may or may not have involved electricity, getting a hot shower, cooking your food, getting light, which definitely doesn't always involve electricity, having light, charge your phone, keep your food from spoiling, and maybe even transportation. So we're keeping, when you keep the goal in mind, it helps you avoid the rut of the same old solutions. It helps you get creative. So, you know, you lose your fancy solar array and you got to think, okay, what do we have that's near us? What's going to keep the person warm, keep the person cool, keep our food from going bad? So instead of using solar electricity to heat water, another way you could do it is to heat directly from solar instead of using solar electricity. And so it's just thinking more about the end goal and working toward that rather than trying to solve it with one of your known possibilities. You could use your gasoline in your generator to run your refrigerator, but if you don't have any gasoline, there are other ways to preserve your food. So we're thinking about generating, but we're also conserving energy. Yeah, that's it. Show that later. All right, so the cheapest, easiest, simplest thing, solar yard lights. I bet you guys have some in your yard. Yeah. What you get with these, you can unscrew the top, and you can take the top inside, you'll have a little candle. So that's good. But with a few extra steps, you can even charge your cell phone with it. So you can take, there's a little battery inside, you can take it out and use a car USB charger. So yeah, they are in almost every yard. They're rain proof, they're not obviously preppers, so they're not likely to be stolen. It doesn't make you look like a target. They don't give a lot of power. The batteries they use in them are low, they're usually NiCad, which are old technology, and they're just low charge. But you know, low is better than no. You might be able to send a few texts, you might be able to read an ebook, you might be able to do a few basic things with your phone. So if you're ever considering to do this, look inside. You can see on the writing this is one AAA battery. So you want to find ones that have AAA batteries inside. Usually sell them at Dollar Tree. So the AAA battery can be removed after it's charged all day. It can be removed and put into something else and be used. Some of them have this kind of a battery called a 2/3 AA, and so it's the same diameter as a AA, but it's shorter. It's harder to work with. Yeah.
So why, if they're running off solar, do they need a battery?
They have to run at night. These little solar yard lights, when they run at night, that's what they use the battery.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then it has it's a self-charging
Yep.
battery. So
Yep.
So you're saying every one of them has the battery?
Yeah, yep. Every one of those little solar yard lights you see, they got a tiny battery in them. And they're the AAA battery, which is very useful. You get them at Dollar Tree, I see them there all the time. You just screw off the top and it says AAA. So that's the kind you get. You can get at the batteries, usually have to pull off a little screw. And so if you decide to go this route, get multiples of them so that you can have staggering your charge times. So you have, you know, 2 in the yard charging, 2 that you're using, and 2 that are charging the cell phone. So they're super cheap and they're easy. Now you can take these batteries out and you can turn them into a phone charger. So this would be if the grid goes down tomorrow and you were unprepared, you didn't have any extra stuff, you say, oh, there's a solar yard light and I've got I got enough of them together, I can make a charger. You need 10 of them total to make a phone charger. And what you do, this is, I was gonna bring it today, but this is a pair of, this is a sheet of paper rolled up. You got a sheet of paper, honey?
You can borrow my camera.
Yeah, I just need to roll up the paper. So you get these two lines of batteries there. You just take your paper and you just roll them up and put your batteries up in there, and then on both sides like this. And you get 5 going one way, 5 going the other way. And then you take some aluminum foil and you cram it into the end of this thing, and that will make the contact on the one end.
How safe?
Very safe.
Really?
Yeah, very safe.
Oh.
And then the other end, you want like a pair of aluminum foil balls here. You run those wires, and you can tape that onto one of these car USB chargers. You know the kind that go in the cigarette lighter? A lot of cars have them. So if you have one of these car USB chargers, a pair of little wires, and use a foil ball, and you can tape that on there. Take these foil balls and stick it into the end of your tube here, rubber band it all together, and it will charge. I've done it. You just need to develop 12 volts, and the little adapter here can take it. So that's one way to charge like a phone or a light if you have zero preparedness or anything. But for a little bit more preparedness, if you just buy $4.44, you can get an actual adapter. I think I got one. And it just takes AA batteries. I might have one, but it'll probably take me a minute to find it, so never mind. But it just takes AA batteries in here. Now remember the little solar yard lights were AAA, so this is where this adapter comes in. This takes a AAA, you slip it into this little plastic do-jig, it's like 15 cents or something, super cheap. And it turns a AAA into a AA. Get a pair of those and put it into the adapter here. You're rocking them. It's $4.44. I just checked this week.
But no, wait, that puts out how many volts in?
That'll output 5 volts.
So it's the 5 for charging.
It needs a pair of batteries which can be 2.5 volts, but because it's got an internal circuit to boost the voltage, it can do. It'll basically be 5 volts.
I've noticed a lot of the batteries though are rated at 1.3
Yeah.
instead of 1.5.
Yeah, these are actually 1.2, but because it's got that boost circuit in there, it can handle. It can take in up to 5 volts. All right, so next one, you can power your whole house from your car with just this guy right here. Now we're not talking about air conditioner. We may not even be talking about fans, but we're talking about power, the necessities, the true basics. So you can connect this inverter to your car battery, or as I did here with a lithium battery. Some cars even have inverters built into them. Our van has a small inverter built right into it. You need at least 800 watts to power refrigerator, fans, lights, cell phones. So that's an 800 watter. I've had that for several years and I use it weekly. So you take this and you put that in your car, and you have an extension cord running to your house. And then so you want to tape down your wires so you don't have a trip hazard. And you don't need to run the fridge 24/7. Remember that little fridge thermometer I gave you? So you can put a little external fridge thermometer, put the little probe inside of the refrigerator, and the external monitor, you can see, okay, it's getting too warm now, it's time to plug it in. So you can keep it on the temperature without opening the door. Like that. So like $10 for this little guy, or we got them for on like $2 on AliExpress or something. And then the other thing you can do is cover your fridge with blankets, because in the summertime when it's hot, you're not going to use that many blankets, but the blankets will hold the cold in, give you more insulation. When you're running, if you're running it off your car, do get a steering wheel lock, because you're thinking about it, you've got your keys in your car, you got your car running, sitting in your driveway, you're not paying attention. It's running as a generator, and now a target to be stolen. So a little steering wheel lock is a good idea. This one was $35.99 as of this week. So it's very reasonably priced. If you any kind of inverter, you've got to make sure it meets these stats right here. Most of the stuff on Amazon does, but I used to shop AliExpress for them, and they had them all kinds of different voltages and stuff. You also want to make sure it's got standard United States outlets. Some of them are European, so that can really mess you up. But this one's got standard U.S. outlets. There is also a universal kind that looks kind of funky, like a letter T, and it can plug multiple U.S. and all kinds of different nations. You want no more than 1,000 if you can help it, because the alternator in your car can only handle so much current, especially when it's sitting there and not moving. You're not getting that rushing air. So this is only for a real emergency. Really, you don't want to do this for a long period of time. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Up there at the top, or right below the link, it says insured is a 110 volt by 60 hertz by 12 volt.
Yeah.
Why is there 2 volts?
Okay, so this is the output voltage. This is the input voltage.
Oh, all right, that's.
12 volt is your battery, and 110 is your appliance.
I just saw a watt below it,
Yeah.
so I thought maybe you might have put a V instead of a
And then
W.
when an inverter, they'll give you the peak rating, and they'll give you the running rating, and that one is a 800 running rating. That's another reason I stopped shopping on Ali's, because they invert the numbers, and AliExpress are cheaper, but they'll tell you the peak rating and advertise that, and peak rating is like running full sprint. Trying to run all, you can only do that for so long. And so the inverter can't handle a constant peak load. It's only just for like startup power. So the one that really concerned is with the running power. But this is a cheap way to just have power in a blackout. It's a good backup for your generator. There are 2 different kinds of inverters. This one's called a modified sine inverter, and then there is a pure sine inverter. Now, pure sine are more expensive, but they're also healthier. You put a laptop on a modified sine. This one's handling it okay, but some of them may not like that. There's a couple of podcasts here that I linked to that I really learned a lot of things from. So if you're deciding to go this route, click on those and listen to those podcasts. You got some great ideas on there. Okay, next we have a solar oven. So you can boil water with a potato chip bag. Talk about Redneck. You can take if I didn't tell you, by the way, this presentation will be online, and Wayne, if you want a link, I can shoot it to you.
Thank you.
I'm going to also put the recording up.
Are all potato chip bags still made that way?
No, not all of them. Not all of them. But the ones that have the foil inside, you can use that for turn it, line the face of a solar oven. And you can just need things like a picture frame, a couple of boxes, newspaper, tape, glue, and there's some instructions here. Other ways to do it. That's not the only way to do it, but there's just lots of ways to make a little solar oven. They sometimes recommend glass, like this is, I think, the glass with a picture frame, but you can also do a clear plastic bag, and then you just put a pot inside of it. So that's another way to handle that.
By the way, you probably all know this, but they have cookbooks for recipes that we done in the solar oven. Which is kind of
Solar oven recipes. All right. Hay box. Hay box is traditionally made from hay, but doesn't have to be. All it is an insulated box. So if you have blankets, what you do is you start the pot cooking. Then you take it off the fire and you put it in the hay box, and it will finish the job with all the retained heat inside of it. So you just wrap it with blankets or something, and it will continue to cook. So rice is really good for that. So rice, you gotta leave it on the burner for a long time. But rice, you can get started, get it boiling, and then take it off, put it in the hay box, and let it finish. It will soak.
Can the rice still be hard, not soft?
I've never done this, so I can't testify. I know people do it, and so they do it and they have no problem with it.
There's a TV show called Wartime Farm, and they literally made this thing here.
That was a fun episode.
And she did it. I mean, they were living like they were back in the day, and she was able to just put rice or stew or something in there, and cook it. And you leave it in there. You get it really really hot, and then you sit it in there. And then you do the installation, and she came back and had stew for her and the men. So it really does work.
Is Wartime Farm all one word?
No, 3 words.
Wartime Farm. You might like that series. That's really interesting.
It was pretty good.
No, you could just go to DuckDuckGo or something and type in Wartime Farm full episodes. The BBC made that and then quietly made it disappear. So I'll find the link, but it's really worth it. I actually bought the book set too. They have a book set.
Yeah, I was thinking that they fit in with BBC ideology.
Yes, they've since changed.
But yeah, even let's suppose you're correct that that would be hard and crunchy. Even if you cut down your cook time in half, you're still saving fuel. So even if it's not long enough, you could go, just halfway, and it would still be, you work it out. The idea is that they use it to finish the cooking with the heat that's already in the pot. All right, next, rocket stove. Rocket stove. You get a much more efficient burn. You only need twigs to use them, or basically anything flammable. You can make it from scrap. So this guy made one from tin cans. And then, so here's instructions on making one from tin cans. So it's just a much more efficient wood stove.
And on YouTube, I've seen some with brick. Looks like that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
So now here's why I would not do a brick for 3 reasons. The number one mistake they make is that the heat that comes out of the burn is going to get sucked into the brick and sucked into the chimney instead of going into your food. So the heat, it loses a lot of heat. The second mistake they make is you want to use insulation instead of mass insulation. The second mistake they make is that the height is too low. And so you want the total height needs to be 3 times larger than the burn chamber. It should be for ideal. I mean, you can do whatever, but you can do this, it does work, it's just not as efficient. And then the other mistake they made, there's no grate underneath the wood. And when you have grate under the wood, you get a little bit of airflow underneath it, as well as on top. And so they recommend putting a grate in to do that. So there's a link here there's a institute that studies rocket stoves extensively, practices, and there's a link here to their design principles. They study that because in third worlds where you burn a wood for cooking, anything we can do to lessen the burden of that is wonderful. So they work on that, and then you can include a grid down. The grid goes down.
The ones that I've seen are with the smaller bricks. They're about 9 inches long.
Yeah.
They're solid, not
Yeah.
cinder block. I wonder if those are as inefficient as cinder blocks are.
Well, they'll still get the job done. You need more wood. You're kind of working against the whole reason to have it in the first place, which is to not have to gather so much wood. But they'll still do the job.
That kind of mimics it. I think they call it an Indian.
Yeah,
Fire-
right, a Dakota fire pit. All right, solar shower. If I only had a trash bag and a soda bottle, I could make you a solar shower. So you get the soda bottle, you kind of poke it through a hole in the trash bag, and let's see, I'm trying to remember, he explains it in the video, I'm trying to remember how he did it. You cut the bottle in half, you push the neck through the bag, and you drill holes in the cap. Oh yeah, they cut in half so that the water can flow into it. You can hang this. He does it in the video. He builds this fancy tripod. That's not necessary. So you can just hang it up in a tree, pull it up with a rope. The best time of that is to shower in the evening because it's going to be the hottest. And especially if you work all day, you can take a nice hot shower and go to bed. You'll feel a lot better. So you can also warm water from the stove, for the stove for that way. It's a cool video. I want to watch it.
So you fill the bag up,
Mm-hmm.
hang it, and that's when you shower.
Right.
But
This-
you can't put the cap on right away. You
No.
lose your water. You
Right.
let it sit there for a long time to warm
Yeah,
up, right?
I think, I don't remember in the video how he handled that, but I bet what he did was put a different cap on while it was heating up.
I don't know, because if you have to do that, then you lose a lot of water because you're taking the cap off, and even if you're right there with
No,
another
you
cap,
just take the cap and turn it upwards. Put the cap on, and then you can hang it down.
Yeah.
The other possibility is he sits it, you could sit it on something and have the ends lifted up so that the water pooled in the middle.
Yeah, and I see you say warm water from the stove, and if you had a solar oven, you could also warm the water
Yeah.
that way.
Yep. You definitely can. All right, compost water heater. We're getting a little more complicated here, but that's still pretty cool. They run in their compost pit. They run hose of water through it. You know, a coil. They put their compost on top, and as it heats up, it gets to about 130 to 160 degrees. So it can actually scald you. It's a little bit too hot. There are things in plumbing called mixing valves, and it's like a set temperature, and then it lets in so much cold water for how much hot water. And then this has more information on it. That's a pretty clever way to reuse the energy that's going to waste. And in Florida, you want to cool the person, not the room. Now we're going to talk about heat next for the people, because for the video, not everybody's going to be in Florida, but for Florida, you want to cool the person before you think about cooling the room. So you're going to do things like freeze your water in your soda bottles that you can wrap in a towel and keep next to your skin. Personal fans, like when I'm on car camping, I've got little battery fans, a couple of battery fans. I also have, by the way, I didn't include it, but there is a mattress cooler that runs chilled water. I use that when I'm car camping. It runs chilled water through a mattress, and it keeps you cool.
A special mattress, not
Yep,
just any
special
regular,
mattress.
not just any regular
Right,
mattress.
Right. So little personal fans, little battery fans can also, by the way, charge cell phones. So they pull double duty. They get a little battery power in there. Spray water bottles. On a hot day, spray a little water bottle. Frequent showers. People who grew up in Florida before there was a refrigerator, for there's air conditioning. You listen to their stories, they would often just take a lot of showers. They'd go swimming a lot, and they'd just take a lot of showers. And then you might be able to even consider building a sleeping porch. Now if we ever build a house, I'm gonna integrate a sleeping porch. It's gonna be wide enough to use as a sleeping porch. So on a hot night, you get those breezes, and especially if you use hammocks. Oh my goodness, you got all that breeze coming in underneath you and on top of you. Yeah. So that's a great way to go. And then you can also, by the way, a cot or a hammock, you can put it away at night in the morning and use your porch for what it's intended. Wayne, you've got that nice little porch there. You can definitely use that for sleep. Your power goes out, you can't run your air conditioner. There you go. If anyone has a basement, it would be a good place to hang out. Now, we can dig a root cellar in Florida. You don't get a whole lot of cooling, but you get some cooling. One other thing you might be able to do is sleep outside in a tent where you take the rain fly off of the tent, and you hang a tarp instead really high, so that the tarp catches any rain, but you still get all the breeze.
Can I ask a quick root
Yeah.
cellar question that's
Yeah.
not energy related?
Yeah.
Since you mentioned it, for food storage in Florida, is there a level that you can reach that's not gonna bring in a lot of water in the root cellar?
Yeah, not much, but we'll talk about food storage. But there isn't much. No, it's pretty shallow. But now we're a little bit higher, so maybe our water table isn't so bad.
I will say, just to add real quick, I have an experiment ongoing, and I'll probably next year pull it out, but I took a 5-gallon bucket and me and John, we buried it into the ground with food and oxygen absorbers, moisture absorbers, all that stuff. Everything was Mylar sealed, and then covered it up into the ground. So it's actually sealed in the ground. And so we'll see if there's any hope of at least doing something like that. But you can't go very far, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, so they used to in Florida. I mentioned they go swimming a lot. You can even, if you don't have hammocks, you can take a sheet. These instructions here, you teach you how to take a sheet, tie it right, and this guy's little dude's hanging out in the sheet hammock. Great way to keep cool on a hot night. They used to also take sheets and wet them, hang them in the door, and get that breeze flowing through the wet sheet. So that's another way to do it.
See, when you wrote up there, Floridians can dig a root cellar.
Yeah.
So that's some
Shallow.
Yeah, pretty shallow.
And if, well, like us, we're 50 to 80 feet above sea. We might have a higher a lower.
We're 50, so you
Yeah.
might be as high as 80.
Yeah, we're 85.
Oh.
Yep.
The other thing
So
too
we
is
might
like,
be able to.
I did see someone working on an experiment where they took one of those ginormous coolers, the the big
Yes.
plasticky ones, and sunk that into the ground, and they're currently testing. I'll have to find
Yeah, if you
it.
waterproof it really well, it might be able to go pretty deep.
Yeah, you could, as long as
I don't
you,
know, I'm just
because
guessing.
what I did is I dug a hole, I put a heavy duty yard bag, which are thicker, thicker milliliters, and then I put the bucket to add that extra in there. So somebody did a ginormous cooler, so I mean, there are some options, but when Americans think of the root cellar, it's usually, you're going like 15, 20 feet on the
Yeah.
ground, and you can't do that here. We go order.
All
I
right,
was
for-
thinking it'd be pretty good if I could even go 10. I'm not even sure I can get 10.
Yeah. I mean, any little bit. Yeah, maybe a little bit. Okay, the opposite direction. Wintertime in Florida, we do not have lethal winters, but it sure is annoying when you don't have heat. So it sure is difficult. All right, so you can. One really good thing you can do is put a tent in your bedroom, drag the mattress off the bed, put the tent inside, the mattress inside the tent. And then you have a smaller envelope of air that you're heating up instead of the large room, and so you can add a few degrees of warmth that way. Basically, you can treat your house as an enormous unheated tent, and people live in tents in the wilderness all the time, so it's totally doable. So you can make a tent from tarps. You can. There's, by the way, some other uses that you might consider for doing an indoor tent. That is an interesting article. You can get inside of sleeping bags. Whenever I zip up my sleep, I sleep at night under a sleeping bag, but it's draped over, and on a cold night, I'll zip up into it. Man, and you can overheat pretty quick. You got winter hats on. Want to sleep in pajamas. Electric blankets, great way if you do have a little bit of electricity to warm the person instead of trying to warm the whole room. And hot water bottles. Take just take a soda bottle, fill it with hot water, go to bed with it. So you're just thinking about.
One that is fantastic is heated mattress pads.
Yeah,
Because they heat your feet
yeah,
and then less heat going towards your head. And you're sleeping on top of the heat, so that instead of being under the heat of a blanket,
yeah.
and they work much more efficiently.
I work in a little RV. That's my office, and I use a heated foot pad in the wintertime. Really helps. Okay, this is a solar room heater. He basically came up with a soda can design with some plexiglass, and it heats his whole room with that. It's passive solar. So he just spray painted some soda cans black, and he put them in the thing, and he ducted the air through it. Now, he used plexiglass, but anything that's clear should do the job. Glass, even clear plastic tarps. So if you had to improvise something, from the junkyard, this can be done. He put a hole in his wall, but I have seen them where you put your window, just crack it, and you duct it in that way, and then you just kind of seal the air, the sides of it. So you're going to get a good passive solar heater heating the room. And so here's some instructions and some other ideas there. All right, we're getting a little more esoteric here. This is called a sand heat battery. And it just has strips of copper in the sand, and sand holds a lot more heat than water. So if you can get this guy super hot, like solar, or if you have the solar electric, you want to get this guy heat, and you store up the heat into the little bucket. He's got a coffee can, and then at night it radiates all that heat, so it comes back out. So if you have like a wood fire or something, that's another way to transport the heat indoors and bring it up all night long. And it's just sand and he uses copper. Copper is definitely best, but it's not the only way to do it. You can use aluminum, steel, or iron, anything that's conductive. It's just less effective. But there's some instructions on doing it. All right, earlier, remember I told you don't use to use insulation, not stone, for a rocket stove. This is the opposite. This is a rocket mass heater. This is where you do want your bricks, your stone. You do want the heat to go into the stone, because then it absorbs that heat and radiates it all night long. It gives you a much more even radiation heat. This guy has even fashioned it in the shape of a bench, which is really cool. So you can sit on that and keep your butt warm. So you can make them out of mud, rock, concrete, etc., etc. And you can also, by the way, combine them with a rocket stove. So you put your fuel in, you're cooking dinner, but it's also heating the room at the same time. It's a clever design. There we go, food preservation. So if you don't have a refrigerator, dry it, you'll like it. This is how you make raisins and things like that. But this is especially good for neighbors that are unprepared, because they may not even have canning jars. Most people don't. But they will have a screen, window screen, and a window that they can utilize. So they get food, they can use that to dehydrate, your catch or whatever. So yeah, there's some drying recipes, and there's some other designs. Several ways to do a solar dehydrator. There's your root cellar. So he built one out of sandbags. It's also good for fallout and tornadoes, or if you just want to get in there on a hot day. It just feels cool.
Yeah, that looks maybe 8 feet high. something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's doable here.
Just depends on where what your land is like. If you can excavate the side of a hill like that. All right, generator. You can actually make a generator out of a car alternator and a mower, the lawnmower engine. He's done that here. So now we're getting more fancy and getting more labor, more difficult. But the idea is that it makes 12 volts, and then you just use your inverter there and boost it up to 110, and you got house power. One of the great things about these little 2-cycle, 4-cycle gasoline lawnmower engines and weed eater engines is they're probably going to survive an EMP. So if you have enough fuel, or if you know how to make fuel, we'll talk about that in a little bit. You can get yourself a generator pretty darn fast. In fact, I think if we ever have an EMP, you'll often hear it's going to knock us back to the Stone Age. Well, no, not really. It's going to actually knock us back to like the 1800s, and then those of us with knowledge are going to pretty quickly bring us back into 1930s technology. So we're going to be knocked back 100 years instead of 1,000 years. Another thing you can do is you can take old dead car batteries and recondition them. So you use distilled water, baking soda, and Epsom salt. Then another way to do it is with a stick welder, and you basically just unsulfate the lead plates inside the battery, and you can revitalize old batteries. Now, when you do this, you get a shorter life and you get a reduced capacity, so it's just not going to give you the 100%, like it's not going to be brand new, but it is going to hold a charge. So, power goes out, you're unprepared, and oh man, I want some batteries. Go down to the junkyard, see if there's any leftover lead batteries that are sitting around. You can revitalize them. You would need to use an alternator from a running engine to charge it if you don't have a battery charger. Sometimes Epsom salt does work, as in this example, and sometimes it doesn't, as in this example. So Epsom is not a guarantee. There's this, and this will give you instructions on doing it. There's also some to read, and so that is an option. It's just another way to revitalize old batteries. Alcohol, yes, moonshine. Yes, it can be used for drinking. It is legal to make your own alcohol if you didn't use a free permit. You just got to put a permit. It's like a 1-page application. You send it to the government, and however long later they send you your permit. You can make, I think it's 10,000 gallons for personal use. Yeah. You can make them out of junkyard parts. People used to do them, make them all the time. Still, still is everything. You use anything with calories. Corn, sugar, fruit, most anything that has calories can be converted into alcohol.
So you were saying you put that in a gas tank?
Yeah. An alcohol, I don't know if I covered it. Oh, I did cover it. Kind of. So we'll talk about alcohol and how to run it in a gas engine. But it is doable. Now, the principle of making alcohol is pretty straightforward. You make a sugary water mash. You mix sugar and water. You get your mash going. Then you want to put in some yeast, which, by the way, can be gathered from air. If you don't have any yeast, you can actually set up a yeast trap and gather yeast from the air. You let this whole thing ferment for a week with yeast, sugar, and water. It's going to cause all the bacteria, the yeast is going to grow and be nice and bubbly. And you want to heat the mash, you're going to get a vapor off of it. The vapor is going to come up and it's going to come down into this little, they call a worm. It's going to come, the vapor is going to come down, and if it's in a cold jacket, it's going to cool down and condense and turn into a liquid, which is your alcohol. So it's a very straightforward process. And then in order to refine the alcohol, you repeat the process. So you take the alcohol out here, put it back in the boiler, and do that again, and just do it again a few more times, and you get higher and higher percentage of alcohol. There's more to it, obviously, but that's the basics. Does require either you have a flex fuel, if you've ever seen this badge on some cars, the flex fuel badge. Does require that, or you need a modification. Now, modern cars like our Toyota Sienna, for $1,000, there's a kit I could install in it to run on alcohol, and so that is possible. But the other thing you can do is like the little lawnmower engine. You remember the generator we made a couple pages ago? If you just cover the inlet and you restrict the airflow going in, it changes the ratio of air to fuel, makes it acceptable to burn alcohol, and alcohol will burn in a gasoline engine. Like, it is still a piece of duct tape. I should probably, I'm going to put a note because I want to put that in the presentation on how to do that, because it's really useful.
It doesn't damage the engine, right?
Does not damage the engine.
Because you would think with sugar in the mash, that sugar,
Yeah, no,
sugar
it
is
turns
so
into
dangerous for an engine.
Sugar would be dangerous for an engine, but it turns into pure alcohol. I'm just going to use my Palm Pilot here. Cover inlet.
I believe that's more for older engines, because I remember seeing a video about newer, more modern engines having ways to prevent sugar from damaging
Yeah, they do.
tanks
but
and
still,
engines.
it's still a risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a great, we'll let you make fuel for your car, but it's not a money saver. It costs much more than gas if you consider the inputs that you have to buy and the labor. Now, if you get free inputs, then the cost is your labor. So if you're growing the corn or whatever, then the cost is only your labor. But again, it's still a lot of work and expense and time just to try and save gas. And it's not worth it. It's better to go, while the pumps are still flowing, it's better to go down to the racetrack and fill up your tank that way. But you can do it. You can run these guys on 100% alcohol. These flex fuel will go all, they sell them at E85, but that means only 85% alcohol. But that's just, I think this is only regulations or for lubrication. They will run 100%. So there are a couple of great books on this, and here's one of them. You guys are welcome to look at it. It's the Bible on alcohol fuel, and you're welcome to thumb through it. And another one is How to Build a Junkyard Still. A little book there. All right, biodiesel. So you take old cooking oil and you can convert it to diesel fuel to run in any diesel engine. It's not as good an idea as it used to be because there's a lot of, now people have gone to the idea and there's a lot of competition for used cooking oil. It used to be, they were throwing it away. Now a lot of restaurants are selling it because it's such, in demand. But maybe perhaps you come across some used oil and you have an idea, I want to use this in my diesel engine. It's a process you could do. There's a video and there's an article. Several articles, actually. All right, biogas. Do you remember the movie Mad Max 3? Anybody remember that? Nobody? No, nobody? Okay. So in Mad Max 3, they had a pig farm underneath the city, and the pig's poop, they used a biogas converter to turn that into methane, which turned the generators, which powered Bartertown. So it's mostly methane that comes out of it. You can use this to heat, cook, run a generator. You would need a tri-fuel generator, which is natural gas, I think, propane, and I forget. But anyway, or there are conversion kits if you have a generator, or you can also just bypass the carburetor and just run it straight into the engine. That's another way people have done it. But the idea is just put your poop into here, and it travels down here, and it fills this tank down here. And as the gases come off of it, you get this holder on top that sort of keeps the cap on the gas and keeps it pressure. The gas flows, and then there's your stove or your generator on the end of it. It also converts into sludge at the other end, which can be used as fertilizer. So you can kind of multi-stage, you stack your functions there. This guy did it with 3 barrels. There's some things to read, some watch, and how to modify a standard propane
Where's
stove.
the third barrel?
It's inside. So he uses one as a to kind of hold it down. Yeah. All right, wood gas. Wood gas is really cool. Wood gas. This is a car that was converted to run on wood gas. So you can run your car or your generator on wood. It is very well tested. It's been proven. They used to use it during World War II when there was fuel shortages. And you know, because we live in the woods, fuel is everywhere. You can build it with junkyard parts. It's good for generators when the heat can also be used. If you can somehow find a way to use the heat as well. Byproduct, it's almost pure carbon, which you can use in your garden for biochar. It's got a lot of pros to it, but it's got some cons. The cons is the fuel is literally carbon monoxide. So I don't know if you know this, but carbon monoxide is poison, is flammable. It's also poisonous, but yeah, it's flammable. So you can take carbon monoxide, pipe it into an engine, and it burns. The other risk is there is a risk of explosion. It's not crazy bad, but it's a concern. It's very bulky. I mean, look at the size of this thing on the back of his trailer. It's very slow to start up. It's like half an hour to start the car or something. You have the labor of chopping down the trees, and it's less performance. You get about 50% less performance with gas. If it's not cool, if you have a plastic intake manifold on your engine, a lot of them do, it can melt the intake manifold. And if it's not clean, you get tar, and then that tar can build up and seize the engine. So, and the wood does have to be dried first. It has to be seasoned like any other firewood. So it's got a lot of negatives, but I listed it here because it is one that's often mentioned. And in some situations, it's really good. Smoke has 2/3 of wood's energy comes through the smoke. It's mostly carbon monoxide. So you capture the smoke. So you see the downdraft here. The smoke comes out. You're capturing it, and he's using this for a filter. And he doesn't have a cooling, but if you cool the gas, that's prevent the melted intake. And then he uses a blower right here to force it into the engine. So it just burns it just like standard fuel. A lot of gas trucks and cars and things can run just straight wood gas. I would definitely use the buddy system when working with it because we're dealing with carbon monoxide. Learn and watch for carbon monoxide symptoms. You can make one from old propane. This guy made one from old propane jugs and barrels. This one he did it without welding, which is kind of cool. They just screw parts together. There's more on this, and there is this book which I'd love to get someday. It's another thick one like that. It's the Bible on building wood gasifier. All right, this is cool. It's a cool little video, 7 minutes. And he it's like remember the Back to the Future, the Mr. Fusion little thing that's sitting on the back of the car? It's kind of like a Mr. Fusion. He takes trash and garbage from the beach that washes up on the beach. He puts it in his little contraption here, and he creates diesel for his generator. There is a guy, by the way, who is a kid, right out of high school, found out how to make one with microwaves. It's a very complicated process, but he's a genius, but he's done it with microwaves. He melts the plastic and converts it into gas, into fuel. So that's another way to do it, but that's really complicated. Anyway, this guy does it, and he just takes it, this is how he does it. So the concept is similar to how real oil in the real world in a refinery is converted to diesel and gas. You put it into a sealed metal container. That's what he had on that one. In a big metal container. You heat the container to 750 degrees or greater. The pressure and the heat without oxygen, so it's sealed, there's no oxygen. Because of that, it's a process called pyrolysis and converts it into a fuel vapor. The vapors coming out, you do have a little pipe off of it that you can capture the vapors. You cool down these vapors, and this guy just used three tins to cool down the vapors. That will condense the liquid into a usable fuel. This guy does it in stages, so that's how they do it in a real refinery. Is they have stages, so that you can create gas, diesel, and kerosene from the same vapors. You can use that excess heat if you need to, you can again stack your functions. Now the downside is that you get contaminants. I would only run this in engines that you can disassemble and clean by hand. Or if you have several engines, you just use one up, and then you can also get pollutants. So you don't want to be standing downwind of it. You have to consider why you're trying to survive and what kind of world you want your grandkids. So you don't want to ruin the world that you're trying to. So don't put it near your crops or anything. I'm not sure that it uses more energy than it's obtained. I think it does. But even if it does, you're taking plastic, which is unusable, and converting it to fuel, which is usable. So it's a conversion process. And the fact that it uses more energy, we just go down to the dump and get more plastic. The byproduct is a nasty sludge, and there's not a lot of resources that I could find. I found some videos, and I'll link to them there, about how to do it. This guy here is actually doing it right there in that video. But there's just not a lot to go on with that. And then the last one, we've got my little experiment mental exercise I've been thinking through. You get your solar power, comes down, it bounces off a parabola, little doodad mirror parabola, heats up the water in a tube, a steam pipe, and converts it into steam. Steam, if you pipe steam into a two-cycle engine, can just up and down. You push the steam in, and it cycles the engine, and you can use that to turn an alternator or charge a battery. A two-cycle, because it opens, closes. A little bit of modifications you need to do, but not much. And there's people that have done about 50% of all I'm talking about. It's just no one I've seen has combined them all together. This guy actually did it with the parabola and the steam generator, and he ran a little generator. But what he used was some hard to obtain materials, so I wouldn't do it the way he's doing it. And he's got a special purpose-built steam engine. I wouldn't do it that way. But it is, he's proven it's possible. You want to surround it with blocks, bricks, sandbags, or piles of dirt, because when you're working with steam, there is an explosion risk. Steam does not like to be compressed. This guy has made the parabola, the mirror, out of mylar blankets, out of space blankets. So he uses like some chicken wire and space blankets, and he has a special shape plate, and it converts and heats up the steam and makes steam with that. So it is possible to do that if you don't have the big mirrors. Just get some mylar space blankets or aluminum foil or something, or even mirrors. This guy used a tube, just a piece of clear tubing, did it spiral, and it turned it to like a Fresnel lens, big magnifier. So that's a way to heat the water. You just standard tube. You could use a rocket stove. So if you don't want to do it by solar, you could take your little rocket stove and heat the water that way, make steam. And then this gentleman actually took an old broken two-cycle engine, and he converted it to run on air power, so it can also be run on steam power. Even dead two-cycle engine should work as long as the rings are intact and it's not seized up. It does need lubrication, and I wrote a forum here. If anybody's ever thinking about doing this, discussing how it's done and some ideas and some thoughts. So the principle of operation is pretty straightforward. Get your steam up here, get your piston up in here going up and down. Then you got a blunted screw. There's a screw that where you file the tip down. So you know, a sharp tip. And actually the cycle starts here. So that here's your valve seat, and the screw is sitting in the valve seat, sealed off. Your steam can't enter the chamber. The piston goes down and comes back up. It bumps the screw up, opens the valve, lets steam in, which then pushes down the piston. It cycles back and forth. So this has actually been done, like I said, the two-cycle conversion has been done. The mirrors have been done. The actual powering an engine by steam has been done, but no one's combined all these ideas into one. This is one of those crazy projects that maybe one day I'll do. But this is the idea. So the last piece of this is you need to consider lubrication. So here's your main steam line coming in, and the steam enters this T right here, and it comes in here and condenses, and the steam then condenses into water. Water and oil, oil floats, so the water sinks to the bottom. That pushes some of the oil up, just a little drop or two. That oil comes over and spills down into the engine. This is how old steam engines used to lubricate. One of the ways they would lubricate their steam engine is called a displacement oiler. Yeah, so steam goes in, condenses into water, water drops down, it pushes a little bit of the oil up, flows over, drips down into the engine. You get lubrication on your engine. After so many hours or so of operation, you just need to drain off the water, remove the plug, and fill it with more oil. Then you do that with hardware store parts. It took me a long time to figure that part out. All right, so what if you're overwhelmed like this little hamster? A lot, I covered a lot. You could download this presentation. You could buy a couple of those AAA to AA adapters and use your solar yard lights for that. You could get a one or more of those inverters. You can download articles and print articles that I put in the article you like the hamster? Yeah. You can download and print those videos. You can bookmark the videos. You could watch a video today. You could make a paper tube phone charger like I showed you in the picture. And then here are some resources just for more ways to explore these topics. You got MacGyver here arguing with you about paperclip. All right, any questions?
Yeah.
Cool. The grid goes down. You help your neighbors.
I was asking as we went, so
Yeah.
I don't have any now.
Yeah.
One thing that's very available is satellite dishes.
Yes.
And they can be, if you grind the paint off and polish them, they make parabolic.
Satellite dishes. Yeah.
And then you have to find the right distance, but you can boil water, cook, heat ovens, generate electricity, whatever.
Yeah.
Using that nice aluminum.
Yeah. Now, what you do have to do with those is build a solar tracker. It's not too hard, but the solar tracker will track the sun.
Right.
Otherwise, you're out there in 5 minutes turning it, and it gets old fast. But a solar tracker, the simplest solar tracker I've seen is 4 sun sensors in a square like that, and there's like a bar. There's a thing between them here, and there's a thing between them here. And when the sun when it's direct on the sun, all 4 are lit. All 4 are good and happy. But as soon as the sun moves, it shades one or more of those things. That activates the motor to then turn the thing to face so that it no longer is shaded. This is just a simple, cheap little design. The downside of it is it doesn't handle clouds well. You get cloud, but there's microcontrollers people have done with things like that to compensate for that. So it's a little more complicated, but it's a really cool way to do it. Yes, the solar cookers especially, they like to put a little pot in the middle of the
And you're right there, so you just
Yeah.
adjust it.
Yeah. They probably even cover that at solarcooking.org. There's a lot there. And this one website, by the way, if you don't have that one, you can download books after books after books, and they're all legal to download and share and save. There's all kinds of interesting things on this one. All right, anything else?
No, I just need something outside of this. So
All right, well, thanks for listening, and Teresa's going to take over next. Our pitch stop.
Okay. Just